welcome to another weekly live stream where we watch Paul write bugs into Mythruna and fix them, hopefully before the end of the live stream. Thank you for joining me tonight. We're going to be working on Object Assemblies, which is basically putting blueprints together into complicated objects with joints and things. Before we get started, let me thank the patrons. You guys keep the motors running here at SimSilica Central, which is my office chair here. Alright, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll catch you up on what I did this past week. It's been a busy week because I've been off from work. If you guys are online, say hi. Hold on a second. Scratch an itch on my ear. It's going to be noisy. Okay. Alright, so let's see. Before we were dealing with... can I run Shaper from here? Nope. So I think last time I was just about to get to wedge colliders and things. And so... so we could come over and we could do... Oh. That's not right. Why did it lose my... Am I not running from the right place? What does it load? I'm apparently running it incorrectly. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Yeah, gotta run it over from its native location. So this is the Shaper application that I use to define blocks. Shaper, the application, is actually part of the libraries that will be open sourced someday. And so this is the open source version, which is where I developed the wedge colliders and the cool test stuff. Hopefully my audio is coming through. I didn't check. Ta-da! Yep. Okay, good. I had it muted the other day. It's not muted, right? Nope. Okay. Alright, so this is the Shaper application, which I use to define block types and so on. I can set a bunch of stuff about them, what their textures are. Now, the open source version has a lot of, pre-built, well, this one has a lot of pre-built solid colored objects, no textures, or very few. Anyway, so there's the colliders test, which lets you set up different blocks. Like you can, set different block types here. So eventually, like, I will do, find a block type that I like. So eventually the next thing I'll probably be working on for colliders is where are the vertical spheres? There it is. Vertical cylinders, rather. And so you can build the objects in here and then, use the, probe debugger, and you can see where it's doing collisions, and you can, make slight adjustments to see that the colliders still work correctly. So that stopped colliding because I moved it, so it's no longer colliding with this particular one, whereas if I put it back, it starts colliding. I added some things, like I added a random where it just lets me plop a ball around randomly and hope it intersects things. But I have a bunch of test locations that I was already using to work through all of the edge cases for wedge colliders, which you can see are doing quite nicely as far as collisions go. And so that leads us to the next thing, which is, once I got all that working, I was able to bring it into Mythruna proper, and we can and I can show you. Basically, I made a progress video last week, I think. I skipped Mythruna Monday because I was busy working on this stuff. But we'll load Fade up here and run around on some wedges, and I'll show you what I mean. And that'll get us into the next thing I want to show you too, so that's good. Okay, so it is dark. We'll go ahead and make it light again so we can see what we're doing. Alright, so I got like these objects scattered around. So if we see Fade running around, now we have, she can run through these, which previously was not possible. So now the angled blocks work right. These wedge blocks now work right. Hey Lando, how's it going? And as you can see, she doesn't run properly yet on there. It's because the code that controls the animation is reactive. It knows she's moving and that she's on the ground and so on and so forth, but that code is currently not detecting her on the ground. See, sometimes it does. It tries to start her walking. So I have to fix that, but the collisions were the important part. So that works, and you can run up the ramps. Spooky. So, and the funny thing is you actually run up the steeper ramps faster, and that's because there is some, there's some auto climb code that's supposed to make you automatically climb up these guys, and it actually engages for these steep things, and so it makes you climb and run at the same time, so you actually go up super fast, which is kind of cool. And if you run up the ramps, you get quite a bit of momentum, and you can fly off the end. That's kind of cool. All right, so the other thing I want to talk about is the object assemblies, and it took me all week, but I was able to finally design the underlying data structures that let me build these object assemblies. So we have a couple test ones here. If I run, yeah, I've got the object tool selected. Okay, so basically these not animated yet, but they know where their joints are and things, and so I can select this and I can say close, and it'll close the chest. I can say open it again, and it will open the chest. It knows where the hinge is, it knows the different parts. And the same with this door. If I close it, I can't walk through the door. And if I open it again, then I can walk through because it's just a physical object. Yeah, see, I try to walk up the door too. And the same thing, it doesn't work. It's not just... oh yeah, definitely. Yes, definitely. I have to decide, for sliding, I have to decide what the gradient is, which won't let her hold, right? Door kicking soon. Boy, you guys. Took me forever to get doors in, and when's kicking coming? Yeah, it's a standard game developer's lament, right? The more awesome we give you, the more awesome you want, and that's fine. So she can stand, and this slowly sliding down, and so I have to pick like a frictional coefficient that combined with a particular ramp, she should be able to stand on this one without sliding down. She should maybe be able to stand on this one without sliding down. I don't know about that. 45 degree, old Mythruna, yes, 45 degree angle, you could stand on it without sliding, but I think it's going to have to be based on material. If you were standing on glass like this, maybe you couldn't hold on. And this obviously you'd just fall back down. So that should be there. So the, where I was getting with the sub-assemblies or the assemblies, object assemblies, the joints aren't just rotational. You can actually do linear joints too. So like here's a drawer out. I can close the drawer, and that drawer is closed. I can open the drawer again, and it opens. So then eventually that drawer would be a container, and if I opened it, it would pop up, a similar. This is just an object, by the way. This is the actual, this backpack we have open that I'm looking inside right now is the actual backpack from her back. I mean, you can see the model. It's just got the top removed. And so eventually even the backpack will have a open and close animation. And maybe if I'm going through my inventory, my backpack is open back here so you guys can tell. But eventually, so when you open a drawer or open a chest, it will pop up a picture of the drawer with the items in it, or the picture of the chest with the items in it. I hope to get that working really, really soon, because that's part of all the object assembly stuff. One of the reasons to have chests is so you can put stuff in them or have loot, and then I can start figure out what loot means. So anyway, that's that. I started wiring in the workbench, which is where players will create their own sort of assemblies. And they don't always have to have joints. Like, if you just want to put a sword blade with a hilt together, you could do that too. And that's, I figure, probably the most typical use case. So I basically started setting up this UI with basically copying the clothing one. And I was wiring it so that I can develop it without having to load the whole game. And that's what I was doing the hour before. That's what I was doing the hour before this live stream started, so that we can maybe get some rapid development done. The other thing we could have worked on was the animation, because like right now you close it, it goes pop. You open it, it goes pop. And I really want that to be animated. In the sort of crude way I'm doing it now, we'll maybe animate it at 20 frames a second or something, but still. Though it's a relatively straightforward wiring now that the client can talk to the server can talk to the client and make the things open. That's all set up. But so we want to be able to develop object assemblies. One of the cool things is that the right now the format for the object assemblies is just JSON, and that'll be the sort of export-import format like we have for blocks and clothing. So if we looked at the, what is it that I want to look at? The desk. What did I call it? Oh, I moved them. So block set. Main resources, models, objects. So let's look at the desk assembly. So you can see it's basically pulling in all the stuff. This is the underlying data structure rendered as JSON. So you have like sort of the desk itself with location and orientation, and the children, which includes the joint. So the joint is the drawer anyway. So we have all the underlying data structures. I can export them and import them. And I've rigged up a development mode for this editor. So I can comment out the main menu and uncomment the assembly editor. And then when I run, rather than having to pop into a world and all that other stuff, we just pop right into the editor, so we can get done faster. Yeah, so see. And so so eventually the parts you'll have available to assemble on the workbench are parts that you've crafted, which could be based or you've bought, right? So that sword blade you might have had to forge. It's not going to be, I don't have all of those, quote unquote mini games for crafting working. And so today what we'll do is we'll just make it so that you can import parts from your blueprints. So you could this will be like a, you'll see, we'll make it. And so when you want to add a part, you'd say, add a part, and it would normally go to your part inventory. Since we don't have part inventory, it will just go to your blueprint list and let you pull a blueprint in as a part. And maybe I'll include some standard parts as well, because currently there's no hinge graphics, and it's kind of the hinge setup might be interesting. I'm going to prefab hinges for everybody, and so I may also have some not only prefabbed hinges but prefabbed hinges with blocks associated with them. So if, like for the chest hinges, for example, they might be some little brass cylinders, and the door hinges might be some iron cylinders or something, so that they have a visualization beyond what this editor will do. Obviously, grass is not going to be the real editor. I'm going to put a workbench and some paper with a grid on it of a particular size, centimeters or something. Anyway, so let's maybe get these selectors so that they're not the clothing selectors. There'll be a group selector up here, and then a part selector down here, and then there'll be a part editor down here where we can move the location of the part around, change its orientation, scale, and so on. that's the general gist of this user interface. If there are any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we will get started. So first thing I think I want to do is, get rid of the last vestiges of the so selection window. Now, so we will make a group window, and we've already got the versioned list. We want the list box. Okay. Groups. Okay, I'm going to do it the same naming convention that I was using before. And then we'll want to import or add a part. Add part. No, not here. Not here. The groups are just a selector. We won't have any special things. So let's work on that first, then just to get something working. Let's get one thing working first. Okay, so we're going to come back here. We'll replace the selection window with a group window. I don't know if cut-paste coding like this is illustrative, properly educational. So this is the group list. This is the groups. And it will have no buttons. Okay, so now if I run again, we should have had that. Okay, first of all, I need to leave this, and I'm going to put this up here. What did I do wrong? Okay, so my group window, my groups list. Let's save my sanity and call that a group list. And so that should have fixed a bunch of problems. Groups, group list. It didn't even know what groups was, though. Oh, that was some other code up here. Okay, so groups. Okay, that's now called group list. I was presetting some stuff up to automatically load a test assembly each time. So if we start working on combining some things and testing it, won't require like 5 steps to set up every time. I'm trying to learn from my past mistakes and set up these development modes for the initial thing. So so we have our part groups, and we first start with a base, which is sort of what we start with anyway. So this will be the parts in that group. And so we have to define like an object we want to have in there. And let me think. We probably want to make our lives a little easier by having a map of the groups to whatever our part object is. So let's make a part view, and this will have subassembly part and a string name. Okay, so we'll just, these are kind of stand-in objects for the moment, because eventually they'll be, well, these actually aren't. I just haven't flushed them out. So that's good, but we want to make our lives easier. Okay, so that, and so then And then some part view. So these are the parts that are in a part group. And so part index, let's call it a group index. Multi-map builder, hash keys, array list values. Okay. And we're going to want to include that. Alrighty. Okay, so then when we create these part groups and add children to them, we'll have to put them here too, so that we can easily plop them into the selection that we're about to make, which is the part selection window, and that will have a versioned list. Oops, versioned list. What? I cannot type. This is always good. Part view, part select, part list equals new versioned list. Okay. List box, part view, part selection. Okay. Don't need these. We're about to get rid of them. You know what? I don't need to keep track of these action buttons either. I think I can just do that. Okay, so part selection window equals. We're going to add that to the sidebar. Yeah. Okay, actually, I can just steal a lot of this stuff. Give it a title. Parts. And what do I call it? Part selection. Equals part selection window dot add child new list box part list. Okay, this will all make sense in a minute. And we will want buttons here. We'll want an add part. Let's just call it add for the moment. No, add part, add hinge. Add hinge. Okay. We don't need those. We do need those methods though. Add part, add hinge, remove part. Okay, oops. Okay, so we got methods wired up. We wired them to the buttons. We've added to the window. We got rid of the other. I think it should look right. It's not working right, but it should look right. Oh boy. Yeah, okay. Remember I talked about earlier I couldn't type? I knew there was an ED that was supposed to go somewhere. And sidebars, probably not with a capital B. How much closer are we? Oh, build. I forgot to put the build. It's a builder. You gotta call build. And then a wearing window. Kept too many things. Okay, now we should have the UI kind of set up to be able to add parts at least, or get to the point where we could. Then I think I'll work on getting the basic base to not be like a big grass sheet. So the idea being, if I select this, it'll show me what parts are in that group, and when I add a hinge, it will add a new group for that hinge, and so I can add things to the hinge which would be affected by the hinge, that kind of thing. And I may change this to be add joint, or in the add part pop-up maybe. Anyway, we'll work that out later. I'm trying to make it as basic as possible. This is obviously not the final form, but there's two sides of it. I'll write this down because I want to be clear about this. There's the now, which I want to make as flexible as possible for experimentation. Simple one-to-one concept to data. Okay, so then eventually more constrained crafting based and so on. So right now we're working on the simpler the better. So if I give you guys raw input, yeah, like properly themed. That's the other thing, right? So the idea be give you guys as much control as possible for now, and in a non-creative mode, in the game mode, that would not be how it works. There would be some more constraints. You can't just import your blueprints, etc., etc. But so today I'm trying to get as simple as possible, direct manipulation. It might not be pretty. I might not even have the ability for you to drag and drop stuff. You might always have to plus minus the little widget here, but we'll see. I do have plans for kind of a drag drop widget that can be used even in the game. So so let's get rid of this stupid grass base, and that'll also show me if I've got my block loading stuff hooked up right. Whoops, I don't want to minimize it. But yeah, so basically we're set up here, and we can yeah, we're not visualizing our assemblies yet. That's the other thing. So we'll have to work that out. So what I could do... Alright, well, let's get rid of the grass because it looks stupid. And so what we want to do is actually... We don't need ground cells as written. I think it's only used once. And that was only because in the character editor I want to be able to replace that block depending on what you're standing on. But here we want to load the workbench. So that would be... How do I load a resource without the infrastructure to load a resource? Because I'm operating in... I haven't connected to a world or anything like that. I have to be careful. I don't have access to all of the features of a world, but I should be able to load... I'm talking and I'm not reading. I should be able to load a block resource, but I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Block resource shape factory, this is what we're interested in. So we want to be able to load cells like this. That will work. So we'll just hack this into here. What is this update frames BS? That's carried over from something else. Okay, so load cells. Loading. Okay. So that's what we want. We want to load cells. What is it called? It's models, objects, workbench. Workbench 1 carved blocks. Workbench 1. Oh, was it dash workbench? Ah, crap. Nope. All one word. Workbench 1 carved blocks. Hopefully this is even remotely entertaining for you guys. Okay, and then I was already generating. Let's make the node bench. And probably we're going to want to center that. Let's generate the blocks first and see what happens. For one thing, it's going to be huge. Cells. We want the lighting like that. Okay. And we'll add it to the platform. Alright, let's see what that looks like, or what we broke. Ha, look at that. Ginormous workbench. So ginormous it gets clipped by the vignette texture that's in the background. Okay. We're getting there. And so I don't think I can center the bench, but I can set its scale. Bench set local scale. Let's see, to be a block object, it's normally that. Oops. But I'm pretty well set up to really like make a big dent in this object editor this weekend, so I'm kind of excited about that. I would still like to cut a release next week, but okay, see, probably we want it actually bigger than that, but so we have a workbench. It's kind of cool. And yeah, then we can zoom in and out. So that's cool. So this would be, there'd be paper on here, and that's what will rotate around. See, eventually your parts will be in drawers and things, and so like that's why I wanted an actual workbench. Okay, but it's not carved. Oh, carving is a separate call. Where do I do that? In Spatial Factory, I have an example. Yep. Okay. So basically what carving does is change how the texture coordinates are used, so that it makes it look more solid. Here, I'll show you what I mean by leaving this out for a second. So let's Okay, so you can see how, like, the wood grain is, the wood grain is set up as if this was a giant object, you know, where each of these is a meter. And so if we take a screenshot of that, and then I put this carving in, which basically says, no, we want to treat this the texture as if it's, you know, this is an object that's 0.25, you know, 1/4 of a normal block, and blah 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 blah. And true. No. Is there a carve that doesn't require me to specify everything? Because that'd be lame. It totally ruins my train of thought too. Yeah, see, this is provided to the spatial factory. Game session state. Okay, who creates the spatial factory then? Is it model view state? Yep. But that's where we get the carve includes from game session state. Oh. Carve includes. Okay. Oh, it's a predicate, so I can just pass in. Can I do this? Oh wait, we want to say it. Let's see if it'll let me do that. Okay. Is this Java 8? I actually released Mythruna on Java, so actually not sure I like that. The problem is we're really zoomed in, the texture looks a little lamer, but you can see there's a difference here, right? Like if we go and I show you the, so you can see, I think I may leave it like this. I like the tighter grain on the, I need a new wood texture basically that's a little more conducive to objects. But this one looks a little too rough. It looks like a, we're too close to the texture. It's too marshmallowy. That's the word I'm looking for. And reminds me of a, you know, late 1980s game or something. So we will, so as all that trouble we went through, so no, I'm actually, so Mythruna is released on Java 18, but I still support Java 8, so I think so, yeah, because it will run on 1.8 as well, yeah, 1.8. So I released the general, you can download it and just run the jar. That one works on. By the way, downloading, speaking of downloading, there's the link up in the upper left corner. I think I might have moved it down a little bit. Yeah, so it's a little lower than normal because when I shoot near full screen video, you know, there's the title bar up here and I want it to show, so it's up there. Nice, it's solid in the background. Neat. Okay, so alright, so we don't like it carved. I need to get a better wood grain texture for stuff like this, especially if we're up close to it. And it's about to get worse too because we're going to zoom in a little bit more. But I definitely do want to move that bench so it's centered. And so let's see how many blocks that is. I think it's, did I shorten it to 8 or 6, or did I leave it? So this is the block editor. You guys seen this before. This is where I couldn't So here's the workbench which I currently have. I have a more elaborate version that's what this workbench 2 is, and that has this thing up here because eventually the workbench itself could be an object assembly which has, you know, little shelves and drawers and things to make it seem like a workbench where you'd have tools and other items and maybe some pull-out bins and stuff down here. Anyway, that's not what we're here for. I just wanted to count the blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. 7 by 4, roughly. Because these are full blocks and this is a half. So it's 7 by 3.5. Okay? And so we want to move that bench half this way. Oops. 7.5 or 7 times 0.5, right? Half this way. I didn't think about how tall it is, but we do want to move it down too because we want our center to be right on top of the table, but I'll do that in a second. And then the 3.5 times 0.5. Now, of course, this is all in floating point because that's where JMonkey Engine uses. Now, this isn't actually right. We also need to then multiply them again by the scale of the object. Okay, so that should center, if I've done it right, that should center the workbench underneath our The next thing I'll do, I think I'll put the quad for the paper, maybe. Okay, so yep. And I do need to move it down. Okay, cool. Yeah, okay, we're already centered over the thing. Okay, cool. And actually, I can look here. 1 block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks. Is it really 4 blocks high? 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 1 to here, that's 1. To here, that's 1. To here, that's 3. So 3 and about 1/4, I guess. Maybe 3.5, and that'll give us a little space. So we want to do minus 3.5 times 0.25 f. Okay. I don't know how interesting it is to watch me hand code a workbench scene, but here we are. Okay, so it looks pretty centered to me. Actually, we're way off, in fact. Like, where's the center here? It's somewhere over here, right? When you find the center, the mouse won't move on the picture, right? So there, we're right near there is where the center is. And so we moved it too far in one direction. In the Z, we moved it too far, so let's see if that's better. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with me while I make this look quote-unquote perfect. So now I think we're worse than we were. Yeah, definitely worse than we were. Okay, so we were pretty close before. So we were 3.5. Let's do 4. Oh, because it's also cutting that in half. Yeah. And it's from the back. Okay, so, yeah. Okay, so we should be rotating right around the center here. Let's see, where would the center be? It would be somewhere right here. That's where we really want to be rotating around, and we're not. So we still need to move a little more forward. But it's weird because I did the math. Okay, so somewhere in here is the center. That looks like the center of the bench to me, and we're pretty close. Well, we're still kind of far back. I don't know. It's good enough. Mostly we'll be sitting from this side because there's that big bar back there. But we definitely want to be closer. Oh, ha ha ha. Okay, so let's set the default zoom up different, perhaps. What's this avatar BS? I thought I got rid of it. Ha. Okay, well we do still want that. This is where our stuff will go, and we don't need this. Yeah, so that's fine. We'll leave that where it is. I think if I set the zoom to something like that, I'm just going to cheat. Just make it automatically zoom in. I changed the name of it. And then we want to something else, 251. Okay. Okay. That's a reasonable place to be, I think, to assemble an object. Because we already get a little clipped off here, but you can imagine me plopping down a sword blade, putting the hilt on. So we just need our paper on top, which of course isn't important at all, but I'm going to do it anyway because that's how I roll. Have I imported what I need for quads? I did. Mesh equals new quad. Oh. Okay. So we've decided that our... I'm going to count that again because it's just, it bothers me that the bench was bigger than I expected. Workbench 1's what we're loading. 1, 2, 3, 4. But I had to pretend that it was 4.5. Anyway. The workable table part, we're going to call that 6 by 7. Not 7. 6 by 3. Geometry, paper, new geometry, paper, mesh, and then we'll cheat. GUI globals, because Lemur provides us the ability to create a material from a texture. Currently, I'm just going to try to position this in the right place, and so I'm just going to do something ugly looking. Better to have something working that's ugly and then fix it than to do a lot of work. Okay, so paper, we want to rotate math half pi. I think it's negative. You get an intuition for these things after a while. And then bench, attach child paper. I think it will just be offset. So we should have big blue box on top of our big blue square rectangle. Nope. Oh. This might explain why our rotation was weird. We've got a weird kind of Z thing going on with the build platform. So the build platform must mess with the Z already, because the paper should have been in the right place, or the block object is in a strange place. No, that can't be true. Because we added to the bench. What if we add to the platform? That's going to be ginormous. Sometimes when I do these things, yeah, so ginormous, but it's in the right place, basically. That's weird. That means that 0, 0 in the workbench is here, which makes sense. But then it extends up. Oh yeah, that's negative Z, and because of the way we flipped it, actually that makes perfect sense. Okay. So we will go back to adding this to the bench. We will move the paper to okay, so the paper's in the scale of the bench already, and we've made the paper 6 high. So we want to we definitely want to move it 3 over and 1.5 down. No, 3 down, because we're already inverted. And that'll put it on the table. Oh, it's not hot. No, it's not. It's going to be under the table. But we'll see where it lines up. I mean, these seem like silly exercises to go through. But they're also helping me realize what the scene space is for when I'm putting the object on the table. And so it's useful from that perspective too. Oh, this doesn't make any sense. Oh, I didn't need to move that over. Oh, yeah. We were already in the right place, roughly speaking. So this needs to be moved maybe another another meter at least, you know, in its space. And then I don't need to center it, but I do need to move it in by half. And then this, let's try it. Alright, that's right about right. Let's move it on top of the table though. We decided that the table was 3.5. I think that's actually wrong. The other thing is, like, the other stuff I have to do is a very deep hole. Yeah, okay, so see, we need to drop that down by like maybe 0.25. So let's see. Yeah, so see, positioning this will tell me exactly where the objects need to be. And then, or where the base for the objects needs to be. Okay, so we put it inside the, you can't see it, but it's inside the table. Yeah, see, just under the surface. So probably 3.3. Aren't you glad we don't have to jump into the game every time to do this? Load a world, select a player. Okay, perfect. I mean, that's exactly on top, which we don't want, but now we know exactly where it is. So we give it a little space. Then we'll set the texture. So let's see. Yep. Doesn't clip anymore. It's close enough to being right on top. We do actually want it to be a little shorter. Maybe a little longer this way, a little shorter this way. So let's make it 6.5 F and 2.5 F, and then we have to add in another, no, we subtract one from there, and then we add that to there. Okay, so I can just do that. Okay, let's see. Then we'll make a texture and probably call it a night. So what I was saying is there's a kind of a deep rabbit hole to fall down for the very next steps. Whoops, I went a little too far. Okay, that's good. Oh, I changed the maybe this. There's something weird going on with that Z value. It doesn't follow logic. So there's something weird. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's add the paper texture, which I think is called it's not paper, it's old paper flattened.png. Old-paper-flattened.png. Old-paper-flattened.png. Okay. Texture paper. Old paper. Get application. Get asset manager. Load texture. Old paper. Okay. Then in here, instead of the color blue, we say old paper. And then we make sure, yep, we're good to go. All right, let's see if that works. And then I'll finish the thought. I've tried now 3 times in a row to start. Just the rabbit hole. Oh, gotta fully qualify the path. So, yeah, there we go. Oh, I need to turn on transparency as well. So, like what I was saying, I'll fix that before we get off the stream. What I was saying is the next step is very deep because, well, when you add a part, it's got to add this, which is fine. It adds it to the base, it adds it here, and then I need to visualize it, which means I need to run through some factories that are normally only available if I'm connected to the world, but I think I've set them up correctly, but that could easily take me another half hour to work through. Also, being able to reload one that you've already loaded. It's very interesting that we've got like a really bright sun in here. So, you know, being able to select this and have us fill in, those are fairly straightforward, but to be able to know what's in here, that's the other thing. Okay, so let's fix the transparency real quick. I'm actually kind of disappointed it wasn't already, but that's okay. Okay, so to do that, we will say paper, get material, get additional render state, set blend mode, blend mode alpha, and paper set Q bucket transparent. And if I was using a fancy IDE, it would have imported all those things for me. Because I'm not, I have to import them separately, so I steal them from here. Got bucket here. QRS. And then blend mode, I'm going to have to look that one up. Yeah, okay. So it's part of render state. Alright, so we should have transparent thing now. And I have that image loaded up to redo it for a that ratio, that 6:3 ratio or whatever. Okay, look at that. So that's okay. But I want to redo this texture to have like a narrower border here maybe, and then have the grid overlaid. But okay, so we're there. Next immediate step would be for me to implement the add part, but I think I'm going to cut it off here because I'm starting to lose my voice, and that's stuff I'll, yeah, look, that's cool. It limits me from so cool. And I actually may drop this a bit so that when we're here, like whatever's on top of the table would be here. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. Let's drop it another meter in its space. So let's do 4.5. But anyway, that paper is good enough for now, and even having a grid is kind of a nice to have. Yeah, so this is better. So then if we had an object sitting here, it would be sitting. In fact, we could probably start the zoom right about here. So I'll experiment with that too. But I think I'm basically ready to actually dig in and start implementing this. You know, I want to auto select the base. Normally, when you would start this, you would I don't know actually. I'm still working out the workflow. But the idea being here, you could come in, add part, and select. That's interesting. Oh yeah, because we're in development mode. The idea being click add part, and then it would pop up your blueprint selector, and you could select one of your blueprints, and that would pop it in here, and you would see it in here. And then if you selected it in here, there'll be an editor down here where you can rotate it and move it. Add other parts here, add a hinge, and that would make a new group here. And if you selected that group, you get a clean part list that you could add things to there. So yeah, so I'll probably have a progress video once I get all that working. We'll get animations working and so on. Do you guys have any questions? It's been a rather quiet stream. Hopefully if you guys were listening to my voice to fall asleep, you have drifted off and are having wonderful dreams about wood and paper and workbenches and things. Otherwise, I'll start wrapping it up. Let me go ahead and exit out of here and bring up here. If you guys are working on your own projects, I hope you have like productive time this weekend and that you're getting some extra time to 4 a.m. still awake. Nice. I'll still be awake at 4 a.m. My 4 a.m. So anyway, thanks for joining. Again, you can download the game if you haven't already. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. And if you like and comment the video, it does help feed the algorithm. And if you happen to know one of my patrons, thank them for being a patron. I certainly thank them. And you guys are great. And anybody who participates in this, I really appreciate it. And I wish you a happy holiday season. And I will see you guys online. Thanks a lot.